Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well and that you're all having an incredible day. There's a lot to cover. It's been a very busy day thus far, and without further ado, let's jump right into it. Ripple, the company, appears to be quietly rolling out a major rebranding. The San Francisco startup has removed nearly all references to its three main cross-border payments products from its website. They are xCurrent, xRapid, and xVia. Ripple appears to be streamlining its message by shining the spotlight on RippleNet, which is the umbrella name for the 200-plus companies that utilize Ripple's cross-border payments technology. Most of those customers use Ripple's payment messaging system, which has long been branded as xCurrent. As for the company's XRP-based solution, xRapid, Ripple appears to be or have renamed the technology using the term on-demand liquidity. A new page details how Ripple's customers can use on-demand liquidity to source liquidity through the digital asset XRP with an image that shows the same functionality as the XRP-based xRapid. It says, and I do quote, international payments, especially in emerging markets, require businesses to hold pre-funded accounts in destination currencies. It's a costly endeavor that ties up resources. RippleNet provides an alternative, end quote. And then they have the little image right here of showing people sending money back and forth. It flows through XRP, hits the other side into another currency. Ripple's job page continues to reference xRapid in listings that were posted prior to the website's recent overhaul. References to Ripple's third product, xVia, also appears to have been removed from Ripple.com. The company's enterprise API solution is designed to make it easy for companies to move payments in and out of emerging markets. So far, Ripple has not commented on these changes. Neither should they be forced to. This is part of, it's very weird how time works, and you'll see that during this video. A lot of the stuff that I mentioned in 2018 seems to be completely coming true, and it's very odd, even for me. What it appears to be right now is that because of the actions of the SEC and the CFTC during the course of 2018, a lot of companies and a lot of things are changing very rapidly. I thought or believed for quite a while, if you want to put it that way, that the SEC at some point, and you'll see why, had come to the people from Ripple and told them, you are in danger of being seen as an unregistered security, an unlicensed so-and-so, and therefore you must make some changes. And this is why we also had news during the course of 2000, I think it was late 2017, after the ICO craze had begun. This is when a lot of letters had already started to be sent out to other different companies that you could be potentially this, you could be breaking this law, you could be so-and-so and so. As Ripple, I think, had just made headlines and fortune as like a multi-billion-dollar company, and I think XRP at this point had become the #2 coin. I'm fairly certain if they were sending out letters to other smaller cryptocurrencies that the people from Ripple probably got one as well. What it led down to is that at the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, the people from Ripple had announced that by June or July 2018, that the number of nodes that Ripple was using would be decentralized, partnered off, given away. Other people would be able to use them, open them up, and be able to secure the XRP ledger, as it were. What ended up happening was during 2018, once again, we had a number of American universities and a number of other banks around the world who had also cryptocurrency exchanges who had all announced that they were going to be running nodes for the XRP ledger. And therefore, so the bottom line comes down to, I think at some point they probably had an internal discussion to not scrap the entire thing, but to get rid of all the names because it became too confusing. If people within the cryptocurrency space, even people maybe within the Ripple space, rather people outside of their jobs, people in our space, our area, who like the asset, who like the company, they may even have an issue trying to figure out exactly what the difference is between xCurrent, xRapid, xVia, Spring, XRLP Labs, and all these other X things, and simply combining it into one thing called RippleNet, which we also spoke about at the beginning of this year. And a lot of people were like, what happened to xRapid? Where'd it go? And it's like, it's just the entire package right now. What I think is beginning to happen, and I guess we will, every time I talk about something, it happens about a year later. What I think we're beginning to see is that the companies who have been onboarded to RippleNet, that is the entirety of the Ripple system, will either by the end of this year, like Garlinghouse said, start using XRP for liquidity, or the other part that I mentioned before, and other people were like, yep, that's kind of the entire point of it, is that regardless of what any other company is going to use, because apparently the Ripple company has mentioned this other times before, I think I just wasn't there for those press conferences or the other meetings, is that regardless of what a company is using on RippleNet, behind the scenes, behind the actual transaction, where is it? XRP will always be used in some sort of fashion. Doesn't even matter. If they are sending US dollars, it will hit this, it'll transfer into XRP, it'll go back, and then it'll go into the other currency, which is the entire point of XRP. So therefore, XRP will probably, so saith there are a lot of people who are very much into XRP and Ripple, a lot more than I ever thought I could be. And this is what I've been told, is that XRP will always be utilized. And this is why when a lot of people talk about Ripple not using XRP or no one's going to use XRP, I sit there and I don't even argue with these people anymore. So it's usually futile to try and waste my own energy. So 2 parts of it. They're getting to gear up, or have already geared up already, especially because of all the acquisitions that they've been having over the last couple of weeks, to get this thing kind of rolling, where no matter who's using it, the 250 plus banks and companies who are going to be using RippleNet are going to be using XRP behind the scenes, whether they know it or not. I assume they know. And also the other part probably has to do with I want to say an SEC, if not, and I don't think CFTC would have anything to really do with the entire classification of XRP. However, a lot of people were losing their minds last night when this news was released, because people thought that the Ripple company had gotten rid of xRapid and therefore were no longer using XRP. To be fair, in the easiest way, the people who were posting about this were people who already don't like Ripple, who already don't like XRP, who have spent the last 2 years of their lives, and I mean, and I say this in the nicest way, no, I'm not going to even say it, find something better to do with your time. If you spend 2 years complaining about a digital currency that you did not create and you did not own, it's time to just move on. There are other coins to complain about. You could have wasted all that time. You could have started a business. That business could be profitable, and you could be using the profits from that business to buy up the coin that you like. Gonna put it to you that way. Normally, if you would click up here, you would normally see the 3 X's, current, via, and rapid. However, they're all gone, and now it just says RippleNet. And this is what everybody was using, rather losing their mind over. It even says it right here. On-demand liquidity, use the digital asset XRP to source liquidity on demand and avoid pre-funding. For those of you who don't know what pre-funding is, pretty much this is why it's significant that MoneyGram, Western Union, and all these other companies were talking about using XRP, because pretty much if you are trying to send money around the world, let's say you're trying to send money from Mexico to the Philippines, you would have to have in the Philippines pre-funded Mexican pesos to be able to receive that message from the other system saying, hey, this person wants this X amount of money in that currency. And it just doesn't make any sense to have warehouses pretty much full of money should you receive money from a particular country. And the issue is that if you are receiving too many requests from that one country and you don't have that much pre-funded money, well then it's not nice to be you, especially if you're trying to get money to your family in some other part of the world. So this is why cryptocurrencies, and especially on this topic, XRP is being used around the world to be able to source liquidity, because it doesn't really exist. A lot of people are usually shocked and fascinated to realize that the world that we live in is based off of messaging systems from the 70s. And I don't mean people sending money back and forth. I mean like actual messaging systems that have to go through multiple other channels to get to other people on the other side of the world. And this is why it sometimes takes over a week to be able to send money around the world. Anyway, apparently that is the Ripple / XRP / X stuff rebranding. I assume we're going to hear more from the Ripple team as the day goes on, maybe even sometime later on today, if not tomorrow, because thus far we have seen historically that the team from Ripple and the team from Binance have been incredibly open about every single thing. They like to talk about any type of achievement that they may have had, and I assume them changing the name to all of this will be as significant for them as well. And without further ado, let's move on. Next up, a senior analyst at Bloomberg's Intelligence says he's feeling bullish on Bitcoin. According to Mike McGlone, BTC has hit its first solid support zone since May, and CME Group's launch of Bitcoin options early next year should help trigger a new rally in the long run, he said, and I do quote, "The price has dipped into the first good support zone since the May breakout. When Bitcoin, in orange, rallied above 6,500, it signaled a recovery. This level is now about the 52-week average in white. 8,000 to 6,500 is a good support area. The first resistance is now about 10,500. Options will begin trading next year, so responsive long position should appear warranted." Here's the actual chart right here. Meanwhile, trader Tone Vase is pleading caution and says Bitcoin may have a lot of room to fall. In an interview with Blocked TV, Vane says BTC may continue to correct from its meteoric rally that began in early 2019. He said the entire move has now fallen 42%, which is typical of Bitcoin to fall 40% and then go back to the upside. However, because the move from 3,000 all the way to 14,000 was virtually exponential, I continue to look for a bigger correction before being comfortable in, say, going all in on Bitcoin with whatever savings I have left. We are in another one of these periods, I'm not sure if you've realized, where everyone is about a good 30-70 split. I was going to say 40-60. We're about a good 30-70 split right now. A large part of the cryptocurrency community believes, because of a lot of the things that have been happening over the last couple of months within the Bitcoin space, not even the entire cryptocurrency community, that Bitcoin is on its way upward. However, I mentioned before, when Bitcoin was around the $4,000-$5,000 region, that a lot of people were talking about that Bitcoin was going to continue to fall to around 1,700. We remember how that conversation went and where Bitcoin's price did not went, if you understand what I'm saying. I personally still believe there's no actual reason for Bitcoin's price to be this low. I think a lot of the movements that we've seen the last couple of months, and I even feel not nice about it, but it's nice to see that other companies around the world have also been doing research into this, and we see that Bitcoin's price has been heavily manipulated, if you want to use those words. Bitcoin shouldn't be as low as it currently is right now. The amount of attention that we have within the Bitcoin space is nothing like we've ever seen before. The volumes that we're constantly getting, the amount of people who have jumped onto the actual mining network is completely out of this world, if you kind of want to say that. So where we are currently, especially in Bitcoin price terms, a lot of people are claiming once again, and this is more just like of a, not a warning, but like if you're too bullish, make sure to try and stand in the middle, think a bit more clearly. And if you think also on the other side that Bitcoin is going to fall back down to the $1,000 level, I'm also trying to have a clear leveled head. I don't think that Bitcoin anytime soon is dropping down to 1,700. I also don't see Bitcoin floating up to 35,000 over the next couple of weeks. I mean, listen, no one knows thus far. However, I personally sit on more the, first of all, as far as going long on Bitcoin, everyone should be long on Bitcoin. The trend that I've noticed, my eyes, what I've seen, so many people are intensely, heavily focused on the next day price of Bitcoin. Where's Bitcoin going to be in 37 and a half hours? I have to buy a new stroller. Like it's always something really, really intense. If you're in it for the long haul, dollar cost average, whatever you need to do to get into the market. If you see it go low, go for it. If you see it go higher, go for it. I buy the coins that I'm into, regardless if they're down or up, because I'm holding for the next 5 to 10 years, if not a lot more, because at that point I expect the cryptocurrencies that we always talk about to be relatively integrated into the everyday society of what we're doing. However, I don't know what this new trend is of everyone talking about Bitcoin's price over the next couple of days. And then when Bitcoin doesn't hit that, everyone loses their minds. And then we look back at the charts a year later and we're like, oh gosh, I wish I had gotten back into Bitcoin. If you're in it for the long haul, just keep buying. Don't put any money that you can't afford to lose into the market. Bitcoin, for all we know, someone could unplug Bitcoin and it could go to zero tomorrow. I know that's not how it works. I made that joke in 2018. You would not believe the amount of comments I had telling me that I had no idea how Bitcoin worked. You can't simply unplug Bitcoin. There's not one Bitcoin computer. And I sat there like, wow, I learned a lot today. Anyway, let us continue on with the ridiculous conversations because it does get more ridiculi. Next up, Ledger X executives claim that the U.S. Commodities Futures Trading Commission, or the CFTC, is treating them unfairly because of a blog post. According to 2 letters obtained by CoinDesk via a Freedom of Information Act request, Ledger X believes CFTC Chairman J. Christopher Giancarlo was personally biased against the company and improperly used his position to delay the approval of an amended derivatives clearing organization registration. They said, and I do quote, "We have strong reason to believe that this unreasonable delay, that it is in clear violation of the Commodities Exchange Act, is related to the chairman's animus toward a blog post written by our CEO." The first letter was dated on the 3rd of July. Giancarlo could not be immediately reached for comment. I wonder why. We will update this article if we hear back. Ledger X CEO Paul Chu told CoinDesk in a phone call Saturday that the letters are accurate and consist of only some of the messages sent to the agency. In the first letter, the company alleges that Giancarlo threatened the company by saying, and I once again do quote, "In January 2019, the chairman called out one of our board members and told him that he was going to make sure that our DCO order was revoked within 2 weeks due to a blog post written by myself the previous year implying that the preferential treatment was being given to larger companies so he could cement his legacy. This refers to the ICE/Bakkt approval, which was running into issues that were frustrating the chairman," end quote. How many of you, raise your hands? If you're driving, please don't raise your hands. If you're holding a child, don't raise both hands. How many of you were here when I said this exact same thing in 2018? I said, I have a very strange feeling. For those of you who don't know, the people from Ledger X actually put in their application to have a physically settled Bitcoin futures, I think a couple of weeks before the people from the New York Stock Exchange. And I said, something isn't right. I said, it would be amazing if a company that's smaller than the New York Stock Exchange managed to get their physically settled Bitcoin futures before the New York Stock Exchange. What ended up happening was, for those who don't know and why this is an entire issue, we had indications right here. It says, Ledger X launches physical Bitcoin futures before Bakkt. This was the 31st of July of this year. Everyone was like, wow, they did it. Part of the issue is that because the New York Stock Exchange had announced last November, it was October of last year, that by December of last year, that they would have launched their physical Bitcoin futures. Of course, there were a couple of issues, a lot of issues. It took them over a year because, in my eyes, a number of agencies that deal with situations like this are, I dare not use the word corrupt. However, it's fairly obvious at this point that there's money-related instances behind the scenes that are driving people's emotions and their actions. We're all adults here. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The hour after they announced on Twitter that their physically launched Bitcoin futures was going to launch, that they got approval. They got approval by default. I think there was a 200-day waiting period. 200-day waiting period. It pretty much said, if we have not contacted you by this date, you have been approved by default. They waited until that date. No one contacted them, and they said, okay, I think they had received approval on a rather default approval, I think on a Saturday. And I think by Monday, this is when they announced that they were going to launch everything. I think that was the time frame. They didn't do it on the exact date. They waited. They announced it. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, they did it. A couple of hours later, the CFTC wrote them and they were like, nope, you do not have approval. You are in violation of so and so and so and so, and therefore stop what you're doing. And everyone was like, what? And I even mentioned, I remember saying this in 2018. I said, something's wrong. I the entire space that we saw, every single thing that kept on getting knocked out, and especially if you remember the beginning of this year, how many ICO this and so that and violation of this and blah, 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 that, and you can't do this. And I was like, they got it before the New York Stock Exchange. That's a little completely insane. It is unclear which blog post specifies specifically that this letter refers to. This has been a long-going dispute, Chow said, adding that the company was told in November 2018 that his DCO amendment application would go very quickly, and that he finds it suspicious that it has not yet been approved. CFTC spokesman Michael Short told CoinDesk that he could not speak to the allegations in the letters, but generally the CFTC treats all registered entities equally. That is, in my opinion, a ginormous lie. Because for those of you who have not realized what's taking place, the people from LedgerX have still not been approved for their physically settled Bitcoin futures. Isn't that really odd that you'd be able to imagine putting in an application for something and then someone else after you who just kind of walks in, they get approved, and what is it? July, August, September is the first day of October. Still have not been approved. That seems kind of odd, don't you think, after all this time? Anyway, I said this the moment the CFTC responded back to LedgerX and said, no, you're in violation of so and so and so. I still firmly believe. You remember all the cryptocurrency exchanges that we used to have in 2017 who are now gone? And I said at the beginning of 2018, I said, I have a feeling a lot more are going to be disappearing. A lot more of them are going to have their licenses revoked. They're going to be getting fined. They're going to be getting so-and-so. You're listing securities. You're listing so-and-so. Why are you listing this on this platform? Pay us $50 million or you disappear right now. And that kept on happening over and over. And now the only big names that we have in the space, not even just in my eyes, are Binance and Coinbase, the people who've kind of played ball, if you will. And the other people who are going to be getting into the cryptocurrency exchange space relatively soon are the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange. Isn't it weird that the path has been almost completely cleared for them to kind of launch, that the people who put in their application for Bitcoin futures, physical Bitcoin futures, first didn't get it, still have yet to be approved, and the people from the New York Stock Exchange have been approved? It's just, it's weird. It's weird being proven right for really ominous, really weird things within the cryptocurrency space. I don't assume this is going to be resolved anytime soon. I assume that the people from LedgerX are probably going to withdraw their application for the physical Bitcoin futures, or are simply going to stick with it and are probably not going to get approved until 2020. And at that point, they will no longer, even the entire thing comes down to is that, remember, even the people from the New York Stock Exchange had announced earlier this year that they were doing the initial onboarding for their physically backed futures, I think on the same day that we landed on the moon. I think that was it. Or like fired a rocket into space. It was some sort of like significant day. And they mentioned it in a blog post, how they were going to be the first to do this and the first to do that. And I was like, but they're not going to be the first. It's clearly the people from LedgerX who are going to be the first people to do this. And then lo and behold, LedgerX didn't get it. Anyway, I think this is incredibly significant because it's kind of up to whoever puts in their ticket first. And I have a strange feeling that this is going to, I don't want to say like reverberate? There we go, that's the word. Through the cryptocurrency space, but a lot of the spaces that were made for smaller individuals and smaller people they're slowly being pushed to the side because, once again, and I mentioned this in 2018 as well, get ready for this one, crypto is going to be only for the rich. Why do you think we keep getting news about regulations and prices are going to go down and prices are going to do this and this person is in violation of this and this is so and so and so, and then prices dip and then manipulation happens and people start selling off their Bitcoin? Bitcoin is going to be only for the richest people on this planet. If you are in it for the long term, please, this is not financial advice, but do not sell. Pay attention to what's happening. All the institutions who are getting into the cryptocurrency space, who are buying up Bitcoin, the amount of Bitcoin that are in bunkers. Why would rich people need to put Bitcoin into bunkers if Bitcoin was going to zero or going away by the end of this year? Something is happening. There's a huge shakeout happening, and the rich people in my opinion, are trying to accumulate as much as possible or anyone else even has the chance to even think about doing so. Anyway, those are just my feelings on the topic. And without further ado, let's move on. Once again, the Securities and Exchange Commission has come to a settlement agreement with blockchain company known as Block One over the year-long token sale for Eos. It was the largest token sale of the year, raising over $4 billion US. So naturally, it attracted the attention of regulators. The SEC charged the blockchain firm for conducting an unregistered initial coin offering of digital tokens between the 26th of June 2017 and the 1st of June 2018. Block One neither confirmed nor denied the allegations, but has agreed to pay a one-time fine of $24 million US. And I promise you, it only gets crazier as I go forward. The official statement found that the company used funds for general expenses, software development, and promotion of the platform. It stated that the firm did not register the ICO as a securities offering pursuant to the relevant federal laws, nor did it qualify for or seek an exemption from the registration requirements. Co-director of the SEC's Development Division of Enforcement stated, and I do quote, "A number of U.S. investors participated in Block One's ICO. Companies that offer or sell securities to U.S. investors must comply with securities laws, irrespective of the industry, whatever, who cares." This right here is important, and I'll get back to it in 1 second. The company posted a response stating, here we go, that the ERC20 tokens sold are no longer traded or in circulation. The company migrated off the Ethereum blockchain last year and onto its own EOSIO mainnet. The firm added that the SEC granted an important waiver so that it will not be subject to ongoing restrictions, that it will simply apply with settlements of this type. It added that this shows the regulator has been satisfied by Block One's ongoing compliance, and they talk about, yay, cool, we're awesome, amazing. These things right here are very significant. Part of the reason, rather, I'll give you a little history lesson. For those of you who were not here during the year-long ICO, which caught a huge amount of attention, not only within the regulatory community, but also within the normal cryptocurrency space, other ICOs that we had seen launch at that time had acquired around $3 million, $5 million, $35 million based on their time frame for their ICO. Block One had accumulated over $4 billion with a B over the course of their 1-year ICO. For those of you who took part in it or remember it, there was a news story that I had to cover multiple times because people kept on. It's weird how people are always afraid of something new, even if they have nothing to do with it. It's a very odd trait that we have. The people from Eos announced on their blog post, website, whatever, so-and-so, you didn't even have to really look for it. It was kind of very prominent. It said, where is it? Right here. This is a Reddit post from 2 years ago. It says, "Eos tokens are useless? ? Why isn't everyone in the Eos community talking about this?" It says, according to their site, the Eos tokens do not have any rights, uses, purpose, attributes, functionalities, or features express or implied, including, without limitation, any use, purpose, attributes, functionalities, or features on the Eos platform. Then it says, Eos tokens are not integrated into the actual platform in any way? Can someone explain this to me? This was a major thing. People read and didn't understand, and this is what I love about the internet because it's so easy. If you ever have a question about something, Google it. If you don't like Google, there are thousands of other websites that you can use to be able to get your information from. They stated on their website during the course of their ICO, the ERC20 tokens that are built on top of Ethereum have no value. Why did they do this? Because they knew that it was a way for them to get an exemption from the SEC or any other so-and-so to not violate any type of securities regulation. If you sell something that you state has no value, will never have any value, cannot be used, will not be used, and has no function on our platform, you're buying air. And I said this is genius of them because if you sell air to people, that eventually that air becomes an EOS token when the swap happened. This is how you get around it. And this is why I believe myself, the SEC gave them a one-time fine of $24 million, which is incredibly ridiculous because the people from Block 1 already had money. I knew I assume, I'm not from Block 1, I assume they had a number of lawyers look into this, and this is why they felt no need to register, because I'm sure they looked at the securities laws, and it says, if you're selling nothing for money, it's probably not a security, especially when you let people know that they're not going to receive any rights or purposes or any money from the actual sale of whatever you're trying to sell. This is why I believe they got the one-time fee, because the SEC was just looking for a scapegoat and looking for someone else to have on their roster and say, yep, we did it. We got them in trouble. They're in trouble. We did it. And we got $24 million. So what we have right now, I guess to kind of finish this entire Eos Block 1 discussion off, is that from the get-go, the ERC20 token was never a security. The SEC still fined them. That fine is over, and since that has happened, EOS has shot up by 10%. This could have major future implications for price movements. A lot of the other coins within the cryptocurrency space have remained stagnant for a while because of any type of movement, backlash, something, whatever word you want to use, from the SEC and the CFTC trying not to get fined. A lot of people have been afraid to put their money into cryptocurrency projects that they believed could be securities, pretty much meaning that they would fall under the jurisdiction of the SEC. And when the SEC says, pay us this one-time fine, and then that's it, you'll never hear from us again, one can only assume that you won't be hearing from them again, and that coin is no longer going to be considered a security. Anyway, that's the major EOS news. And I was stating before a couple of weeks ago that we haven't heard from EOS in quite some time. I assume this was probably the reason. The people from EOS used to give an enormous amount of news. Every week we had at least 2 or 3 articles about EOS, and they all kind of dried up. I assume they were told about 3 months ago you were going to receive clarity on this date. Therefore, the date has passed and they paid the $24 million. Anyway, I remember this happening and people were freaking out. And I remember, first of all, in case you were wondering, I own EOS. I like EOS. I like what they're doing. I like that they, if you want to be as real as possible, I like that they raised $4 billion, more than any other ICO. They're doing a lot with their projects, their tokens, everything you can possibly begin to imagine. So just in case you were wondering, yes, and someone was asking me this yesterday in the comment section. I'm sorry. Life has been like a bit of a blur the last couple of days. Someone was asking me, at these current levels, would I still buy EOS? This is not financial advice. Any coin that you've heard me mention that I like, namely Bitcoin, Ether, XRP, EOS, Omise Go. Ooh, I'm missing a couple. I'm going to have to look at the chart. I buy whether they are up or down. When Omise Go, in my eyes, goes to $1, I'm not buying it. There's no reason for a lot of these coins to not buy them. Even if we do eventually have an alt season, I'm still going to make a hefty profit, several 100% off of a lot of these coins. When it comes to coins that I know are actively doing stuff, like EOS, especially with all the partnerships that they have and the other things that we can only assume are happening behind the scenes, I always buy. There's never, maybe I haven't clarified that in 2019. I don't care if Bitcoin 20,000 or 3,000 or 800 or 50,000 or 150,000, still buying nonstop. It's just logical where the space in my eyes is going. And I see no reason myself, the extra little chunk of change that I may have at the end of the year, or the month, to simply just put it into cryptocurrencies. Here's the actual, it bothers me that they do this. The SEC actually has a blog thing, a press release area, where they kind of show you their trophies, and when they've made someone else pay for something. It says SEC orders blockchain companies to pay $24 million penalty for unregistered ICO. Cool. You may also notice the wording. It wasn't an unregistered securities offering. It was an unregistered initial coin offering, which the SEC believes should have been told to them first. Why? Who knows? Anyway, let's move on. To kind of finish things off, where is it? There we go. Bakkt is quietly planning to boost the use of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in everyday purchases. Bakkt CEO Kelly Loeffler and Jeff Sprecher, the founder and CEO of Bakkt parent company Intercontinental Exchange, confirmed Bakkt is in talks with consumer brands looking to accept digital assets. This was reported by Fortune. Starbucks already plans to install Bakkt's payment software in its stores, which customers can use to make their daily purchases in Bitcoin. I'll get back to that in 1 second as well. The coffee giant reportedly holds significant equity in the company. Before I even go any further, I'm going to assume that if the people from Starbucks, assumption, hold a huge amount of equity in Bakkt, they're probably behind the scenes also accumulating a large amount of Bitcoin. Just going to throw that out there. Bitcoin has the potential to disrupt the retail credit industry from a cost perspective. On average, retailers have to pay 1.95, this was to 2%, kind of the same exact thing for Visa, MasterCard, and Discover transactions. Who uses Discover? According to Cardfellow, that percentage rises to 2.3 to 2.5 for card not present businesses like online shops. Bakkt officials told Fortune their immediate goal is to establish Bitcoin as a reputable investment alternative, something the company says it looks forward towards doing with the launch of Bitcoin futures product last week. Their initial trading volume numbers have been underwhelming. However, economist and crypto analyst Alex Kruger noted the difference between Bakkt's launch and the Chicago Mercantile's exchange first week with a futures product. And this one says right here, Bakkt's first week volume was approximately 5.8 million and managed to get traders interested in 5 Bitcoin worth of physical Bitcoin futures. Quite the successful launch. And I'm going to say this in the nicest way possible. Going to get my words right in my head. If you, and this isn't to any particular person, I promise you that. If you've watched my videos before, this is a blanket over everyone in the crypto industry. If you did not create something, if you did not launch something, if you did not do something, if you have not contributed to the cryptocurrency community in any sort of way, once again, this is a blanket. Please stop talking about what other people have launched. You want to know the difference, and this isn't me backing Bakkt. You want to know the difference between the Bakkt launch and the CME and the CBOE Bitcoin futures launches? The CME and the CBOE told us in, I believe it was October 2017, that they would be launching Bitcoin futures. What happened is that by December 2017, they had launched their Bitcoin futures and Bitcoin's price skyrocketed. And when Bitcoin skyrockets, everything else that has the name Bitcoin in it, that includes forks, skyrocket as well. One can logically assume if you are telling me something in October as the cryptocurrency market in 2017 has been losing its mind and going further up, that you are going to launch something in about 6.5 weeks, the hype is going to remain and everyone's going to completely lose their minds the day before this is going to launch, which it did. And Bitcoin's price was around 8,000. And then within about a day and a half, Bitcoin's price was at 13,000. I remember this because I remember telling my family, hey, look at Bitcoin's price. And the Bitcoin's price completely goes insane. One can only logically assume that during the first week of something launching, when Bitcoin's price is already being hyped up and the market's completely losing its mind because of ICO mania, that the futures that you've launched are also going to do fairly well. Just logically speaking. For those of you who were here since the middle of last year, the people from the New York Stock Exchange announced in June that they were thinking about getting into the cryptocurrency space, and I said no. They're definitely going to. Why would you waste your time as the New York Stock Exchange talking about, oh, maybe we'll get into it? No, it was clearly obvious that they were going to. About a month later, they announced, yes, we are going to be launching this, and we're going to have Starbucks, and we're going to have Nordstrom, and we're going to have this company all being able to accept Bitcoin. Everyone's like, woo! A month later, they're like, yes, we are going to also have Bitcoin futures, and they're going to be physical, and we're going to be launching this November. Everyone's head exploded. Physical Bitcoin futures, my gosh, that's completely insane. My God, how do we deal with this news? Bitcoin's price is definitely going to skyrocket. Everyone was like, remember 2018 as Bitcoin's price was floating around 8,000 and had dipped to 6,000. It was floating around the $6,000 range. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Bitcoin's getting ready for a major move. We know in a couple of months, The New York Stock Exchange is launching physical Bitcoin futures. We had the news that the people from the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ and some other whatever had also been accumulating Bitcoin over the last 4 years. Oh my gosh, it's all going to happen. As we got closer to November and it was time for Bakkt to launch, keeping in mind the hype was still there, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Bitcoin Cash Satoshi's Vision launched. Oddly enough, at a weird time frame when Bitcoin was getting ready to shoot up, and it was floating at 6,000. BSV came and dropped Bitcoin's price to 3,200. A couple of days later, we had news from the CFTC. Oh, things aren't looking too well. Also, keeping in mind, this is only just logically speaking, just logically. During the course of 2018, multiple countries, at least 15 of them, had announced that they were going to be either banning or heavily restricting Bitcoin or cryptocurrency use within their country. Most of these countries we still do not have word from. Just going to throw that out there as well. The SEC made sure to go after, the nice word, at least 50 companies within the cryptocurrency space, saying you are illegal, you are so-and-so, you cannot do this, you cannot have that, we are charging you, we are fining you. One of them was also Kik. One of them was Eos, throwing all of this out there again. Keep up with the logic. The second point was that as we got closer to the potential launch of the New York Stock Exchange's physical Bitcoin futures, the hype was still there. People said by the end of 2018, Bitcoin should be back over $20,000. Why? Because the announcement from the New York Stock Exchange had only been a couple of months before. The hype was still there. Everyone believed that the market was going to go back up. However, the CFTC said, yeah, you're missing some paperwork. Oh gosh, they're missing paperwork. Of course, why didn't we all think of that? Now they simply can't launch because of a couple of pieces of paper that the New York Stock Exchange didn't have. My goodness. And on top of this, I'm sure you remember as well, the people from the New York Stock Exchange had openly come out, and you could tell the frustration on a lot of their faces when they were having, there were tons of meetings and conferences and whatever word you want to use that were all lined up around this time where the people from the New York Stock Exchange were sitting on the stages. And they were excited. Yeah, we're going to launch very soon. Yeah, we can't wait to launch in November. It's definitely going to happen. And all of a sudden, their faces changed. They were all kind of depressed. Yeah, we're just waiting for some paperwork. We're still aiming for November. Definitely going to happen. Yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely November. November came around. It looks like we're going to try and launch at the end of December. If not the beginning of January, it's definitely going to happen. At the same exact time, the cryptocurrency space was still torn asunder by regulatory compliance issues. And I thought it a bit odd. This is around the same exact time, once again, keeping this all in mind, that the people from Ledger X had also put their proposition forward to try and beat out the people from the New York Stock Exchange. As 2019 rolled along and cryptocurrency prices continued to go up, we saw a lot of backlash from countries, companies, banks, institutions. We don't like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's terrible. A lot of them also have either fallen silent or have announced that they have been buying Bitcoin this entire time. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that there's a major difference between you announcing something in October and launching in November. Huge difference, especially as Bitcoin's price went from $900 around 13, 14,000 before the launch of this, and then hit 20,000. Big difference to someone announcing that they're going to launch something in October and then November and then December. And then we've had to wait over an entire year for the people from the New York Stock Exchange to launch their product. All the while, still with me, regulators made sure that the cryptocurrency space was uneasy. Every single time that the SEC mentioned coin's name, the price went down. We still have not thus far. Keep this in mind as well. And here's probably the biggest point. The entire idea behind the Bitcoin physical futures is that the Bitcoin itself would be traded physically. When you are doing a non-physical futures in fiat, the same way the CME and the CBOE did, when you get your fiat, you know how you are taxed in fiat. Thus far, regulators in many countries still have not given proper regulations for cryptocurrencies within their countries. I think within the US alone, it is the IRS, the CFTC, the SEC, and one other company who believe that Bitcoin is property, is a commodity, or is a potential security, what have you. And there's also another fourth classification. No one knows how they're going to be taxed. Why would I, as a major investor, get into physical Bitcoin futures, meaning that when I am taxed, I don't know how much I'm going to be taxed? I don't know whether you know this or not, lovely people out there. When you are trading hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, there's a big difference in you having to pay $3,000 in taxes and $128 million or 148 or 85 millions in taxes. It's a bit of a huge difference. Since Bakkt launched, I've seen nonstop, and I don't know why they're doing this. Once again, blanket, not any particular person. I don't know this guy. I don't care about this guy. I'm never going to meet this guy. Doesn't matter. Many people within the cryptocurrency space have made sure to tear apart the people from the New York Stock Exchange because of their launch of Bakkt. I'm going to logically assume, as the New York Stock Exchange, I'm the New York Stock Exchange. I want my thing to go off without a hitch. I'm telling people we're going to all make money. We're all going to all make a lot of money. We're launching in 2 months. I'm probably not going to do anything to hinder myself from making money by taking an extra 10 months to be able to launch. During the course of those extra 10 months for me being able to launch, other companies who I'm talking to are also doing damage to the cryptocurrency space, which we've also heard, and it's not just speculation. We've also had news at the beginning of this year and the end of last year. Remember the other US companies? It was Coinbase, it was Ripple, it was this one, it was that one, who all had letters that they sent to the SEC and the CFTC and said, can we please have regulation? No one knows what's happening in this country with cryptocurrency regulations. It's stopping people from getting into the space. People don't know how they're going to be taxed. People are asking for regulation. Sure, it's fine. Go for it. Regulation, go for it. But tell us exactly what we need to do. And thus far, none of that has happened. I firmly believe if Bakkt had been able to launch a good 2 months after they wanted to, Bitcoin would probably, logically, be over anywhere between, I want to say 15,000 to around 25,000. Somewhere within that logical range. And I assume so because if Bitcoin almost got to $14,000 this year by moving up from 3,200, one can logically assume the hype would have re-entered the market and physical Bitcoin futures would have probably been a hit, as more people would have been accumulating more Bitcoin in a pseudo proof of stake kind of thing, where people during proof of stake acquire more coins to be able to get more so that they can make more profits. You understand what I'm saying, hopefully. The point being, I think I've even forgotten my point. There's been so much stuff that I've been holding back within the cryptocurrency space, and I try to always remain cordial in my own way. But where we are entering, you may have noticed as well, if you've been here since 2017, you may have noticed a shift. It's no longer let's make fun of Ethereum, which was the theme of 2016. It's no longer let's make fun of Ripple and XRP, which was the theme of 2017, half of 2018. It's now let's make forward. Let's make fun of anything that touches Bitcoin that doesn't do well. It's nonsensical. I think people blanket, once again, go outside, go have fun, go run in the park. If it's too cold, wear a coat. If it's raining, go jogging in your house, go stand in place and just jog. Go play a video game, go do something else. Everyone is so busy making sure that they announce the failures of other people. No one really looks at themselves anymore. And I don't know why that's happening. Once again, blanket. I don't know this guy. Don't care about this guy. It's everyone in the entire cryptocurrency space. There was also a huge issue that we had in 2018 where, and I'm sure you remember this as well. Remember when the market was going down and some coins would go down more than others and people were like, your coin's garbage. And I'm like, the coin you're rooting for went down by 18%. Theirs went down by 20%. So the extra 2% means that their coin is garbage and not yours. Pay attention to your own money. Pay attention to what you are doing. Make sure to keep your head down and can just continue to accumulate. Make your own money. Don't worry about what other people are saying, because I don't think that Bakkt was a flop. I am going to assumption time, that if over the course of 2019, if not 2020, if Bakkt starts doing very well, how much do you want to bet that a large number of people on Twitter, on Reddit, who spoke negatively about Bakkt will either stop talking about it completely, or will start to mention how great Bitcoin is because Bitcoin's allowing all this money to flow into the cryptocurrency space, and therefore, by default, Bitcoin and Bakkt are great, and therefore, people should have been paying attention before and should have been accumulating during the course of 2019. How much do you want to bet? We saw that before, 2017, 2018. People talk negatively about stuff, and when they start making money from it, all of a sudden it's amazing. Or they simply stop talking about it because they realize that people can just go back to their old videos or to their old tweets and see that they were talking trash about something. It's very frustrating. All of it. The point being, as of right now, I already forgot my entire point of me highlighting this. It was one of the initial things that the people from the New York Stock Exchange had said that they were going to do within the cryptocurrency space or within the Bitcoin space, is that they planned that they were already partnering with other companies, I think around the world or maybe just within the US, for them to be able to purchase Bitcoin. One of the speculations that I had during the course of 2018 was that the Lightning Network was going to become gigantic, which it started to do. But because of bugs and stuff like that, I think that companies have started backing away. No pun intended with the name. What I think is going to happen is the same way with XRP being used in the back end. I think that companies are going to start accepting Bitcoin, or something is going to be announced relatively soon, if not having been announced already, where purchases, you'll tap your card, you'll tap your Coinbase card, you'll tap your so-and-so, you'll make the payment for it, whether it be in US dollars or whatever, but it's going to go through the system in Bitcoin. This is what I'm seeing happening, because the idea is that, and here's what I'm thinking as well, no one's going to be spending their Bitcoin until Bitcoin is like at least $500,000, if not $1 million per coin. Just logically speaking, nobody wants to be the person who spent money on a latte that 3 years later could have bought them a house. No one wants to be that person. So as a major company, I'm going to assume that they're probably accumulating Bitcoin. So as the purchases are happening behind the scenes through their system, Bakkt, for the payments in Bitcoin, that they'll simply transact in Bitcoin, and this number will also be put towards the actual Bitcoin volume per day. Because if you remember, last year it made headlines that Bitcoin alone, just Bitcoin, transacted over $1 trillion worth of value over the course of a year. We are going to get to a point where that's around $5, $10, $15 trillion, and Bitcoin itself is already larger than most countries. This is all what I kind of see forming. I mean, thus far, logically speaking, we will see if this is happening over the course of 2020, but no one themselves is going to be using Bitcoin, what have you. We're going to see how this all develops, but this is a major part of this launching as well. I'm going to predict the future. I'm doing the little thing like where you touch the temples of your head with 2 fingers, actually doing it. When Bakkt announces or launches their payment system for these companies, people are going to be looking at exactly how much money they're transacting in per day, how many people are buying in Bitcoin. I'm going to assume it's not going to do very well off the bat. Just a prediction. Like I said, no one really wants to sell their Bitcoin. A large portion of the community does not want to sell their Bitcoin. And when it does not do well during the first couple of weeks, we're going to get tweets all over again about how Bakkt is a failure. And then once again, in a couple of years, when Bakkt themselves are transacting $500 billion, if not $1 trillion per year in Bitcoin transactions, no one's going to talk about it again because you have no dirt to throw on them. Please keep your heads down. It's so we don't need a situation every single year where someone is talking mess about someone else and how well that they're not doing and so and so and so. It's just a lot. Anyway, like I said, I don't know if I said it. It was going to be an intense video. And there we have it. As always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Professor Wally from Gunbot University, Adam Graysick, Mohair Maroney, Master Ventures in Thailand, Brady Nields, Woody and Daisy, Triple M and J, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, 242 to the World, Crypto Joe, Bankroll Network, Adobo, Mill Weezy, Mechanic, Strange, Radio Central, Crypto Artist, Cole D3D, Cryptopolis, Nicholas, One Earth, One Piece, One Love, Damien, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich III, Vlad the Impaler, Crypto Beer Shipmate, Paxis, Nick Mangialavori, Anthony Charles, Jim Gardner, Jeremy Fox, Minting Coins, Miller Hitch Test Every Day, and Kyle Skips Leg Day, and yes, to crypto. Thank you all very much for your support. The market right now looks like it has no idea what it's really doing. Bitcoin is currently up by 3.6%. We are up from the 7,950 where we were just about a day and a half ago. Currently looks like Bitcoin is trying to push to $8,400. A lot of the Satoshi prices are now in red. They weren't, I think, even 20 minutes before I started the video, everything was completely in green. Yeah. I assume we'll see how this goes during the end of the day. Tether is also going up, which means people are buying it, which means the other coins are potentially going to go down. We will see as the day goes on. Is Eos still up? Eos up? What? Yep. Everything is going down at the moment. Eos was up by 10% before the start of this video. It is now up 3.65%, which means around 6 point something percent was wiped away. Sorry if you hear the banging outside. For some reason, construction workers think it's okay to start work in my neighborhood at 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning and then continue until noon and then stop. At that point, I'm already awake. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed, regardless of the heavy nature of the video. Just a lot of stuff happening. If you believe in a project, have faith in it. Don't assume that the entire thing is crumbling, because if you think it's crumbling that quick, you probably don't have faith. The amount of people I saw asking on the internet yesterday, was XRP done? Should they sell their XRP? Was xRapid no more? Who was going to use XRP? If they're now talking about something called, what's the thing called? On-demand liquidity. Should they sell their XRP because on-demand liquidity is going to be used instead? It's kind of like in 2018, I believe it was 2018, where Vitalik Buterin, I'm sure some of you know the story, Vitalik Buterin was standing on stage talking about the scaling options for Ethereum. He was talking about Plasma and Casper. And he said immediately after, people rushed up to him and they were like, "Oh, great, that was wonderful, great, so and so and so." People took him to the side. How do I buy that Casper coin? When's the Plasma coin coming out? If you are into a project, if you are into a coin, it is imperative that you do your own research, read about it, learn about it, so that you don't make the mistake of thinking about selling off your XRP because the name has been removed, or xRapid has been removed from the website. Thank you all, every single one of you, once again, for watching and or listening. I have a feeling that the rest of the week is going to be a little intense because of everything that's been going on. Thank you all once again for watching and listening, and I will most certainly be talking to every single one of you again very, very soon. See you.